The fluorescent lights blurred into white streaks above Joyce Martinez's head as her knees buckled beneath her. The clipboard clattered against the tile floor, echoing through the hospital corridor like a gunshot. Her vision tunneled, darkness creeping in from the edges as her body simply gave up. She had pushed too far this time. 72 hours with only 4 hours of sleep. 3 jobs. Endless shifts. All for him. All to keep her father alive. The last thing she saw before her eyes closed was a pair of expensive black shoes moving toward her, and then nothing. Joyce didn't know that the man rushing to her side was Harrison Bennett, CEO of Bennett Medical Corporation, worth over $2 billion. She didn't know that he had just left a board meeting on the 10th floor. She didn't know that watching her collapse would change both their lives forever. When Joyce's eyes fluttered open, she was in a hospital bed and 4 in her arm. The room spun slightly as she tried to sit up. "Easy now," a gentle voice said. A nurse she recognized from the 3rd floor, Patricia, stood beside her bed. "You gave everyone quite a scare, honey. Severe dehydration and exhaustion. When was the last time you ate a proper meal?" Joyce couldn't remember. Yesterday? The day before? Time had become meaningless, just a blur of shifts and bills and her father's treatment schedule. "I need to get back to work," Joyce said, trying to swing her legs off the bed. "My shift." "Your shift is covered," Patricia said firmly, pressing her shoulders back down. "And Dr. Reynolds says you're not working for at least 3 days. Joyce, you collapsed. Your body shut down." Tears pricked at Joyce's eyes. 3 days without pay. 3 days she couldn't afford. The latest round of her father's chemotherapy had cost $17,000, even with insurance. She was drowning in medical debt, working as a nurse here, cleaning offices at night and waiting tables on weekends. There was no room for rest. No room for weakness. "I can't," Joyce whispered. "My father." "I know about your father," Patricia said softly. "We all do. But you're no good to him if you work yourself to death." Joyce turned her face away, letting the tears fall. She was so tired. So impossibly tired. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. At 28 years old, she felt ancient. Patricia handed her a tissue and a business card. "Someone left this for you. The man who found you. He waited until the doctor confirmed you'd be okay, then he left this and asked me to give it to you when you woke up." Joyce took the card with trembling fingers. It was thick, expensive cardstock with elegant black lettering. Harrison Bennett, CEO, Bennett Medical Corporation. Below the name was a phone number, and on the back, written in bold handwriting, "If you need anything, call me. No one should have to suffer alone. HB." "Who is he?" Joyce asked. "Only one of the richest men in the state," Patricia said, her eyebrows raised. "He owns half the hospitals in the region, including this one. I've never seen him on the patient floors before today. You must have made quite an impression." Joyce stared at the card. Why would a billionaire care about an overworked nurse? What could he possibly want from her? But the words on the back echoed in her mind, "No one should have to suffer alone." She tucked the card into her scrub pocket, too exhausted to think about it now. "Before we continue, can I ask you something? Have you ever felt so tired, so completely worn down by life, that you didn't think you could take another step?" Joyce is fighting a battle that millions face every day, choosing between their own health and saving someone they love. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or someone you know faced impossible choices like this? Your story matters. 3 days later, Joyce returned to work against medical advice. She couldn't afford not to. But something had changed. Her supervisor, Linda Chong, called her into the office first thing. "Joyce, we need to talk about your schedule," Linda said, her face serious. Joyce's heart sank. She was going to be fired. They were going to let her go for collapsing, for being weak. "I understand," Joyce said quietly, already calculating how long her meager savings would last. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if she was careful. "No, I don't think you do," Linda said. "We're cutting your hours." "What?" "No, please, I need." "We're cutting your hours to 40 per week maximum," Linda continued. "Doctor's orders. And that's not negotiable. You're an excellent nurse, Joyce, but you're killing yourself. We can't enable that anymore." Joyce felt the room spin again. 40 hours a week. That was barely enough to cover rent, let alone her father's treatments. The latest bill from his oncologist sat on her kitchen table. $23,000 for the next round of treatment. Treatment he needed to live. "I can't survive on 40 hours, Joyce said, her voice breaking. "My father." "I know," Linda said, her expression softening. "And I'm sorry. But this is about your health too. You're no good to anyone if you're dead." Joyce left the office in a daze. She made it through her shift on autopilot, checking vitals, administering medications, comforting patients. But her mind was elsewhere, frantically calculating numbers that didn't add up. She would have to pick up more hours at the restaurant. Maybe find a fourth job. Maybe. The business card in her locker seemed to burn through the metal door. That night, sitting in her tiny studio apartment, Joyce stared at her father's medical bills spread across her coffee table. Stage 3 colon cancer. He had been her rock after her mother died 10 years ago, working 2 jobs himself to put her through nursing school. He had believed in her when no one else did. How could she give up on him now? Her phone sat beside the bills, Harrison Bennett's card next to it. If you need anything, call me. Joyce picked up her phone 3 times and put it down 3 times. What would she even say? She didn't know this man. He didn't know her. Why would someone that wealthy care about her problems? But desperation has a way of making decisions easier. With shaking fingers, Joyce dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Maybe he wouldn't answer. Maybe he had forgotten all about the nurse who collapsed in his hospital. Maybe. Hello. The voice was deep, warm, surprisingly gentle. Mr. Bennett? Joyce's voice came out as a whisper. This is Joyce Martinez. I'm the nurse who, from the hospital. You left your card. Joyce, he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. I'm so glad you called. How are you feeling? I'm okay, she lied. You don't sound okay, he said softly. Tell me what's happening. And somehow, sitting alone in her apartment with bills she couldn't pay and a father she couldn't save, Joyce found herself telling this stranger everything. About her father's cancer. About the medical debt crushing her. About working herself to death because it was the only way she knew to show love. About feeling so desperately alone and scared and tired. She expected him to offer sympathy, maybe some empty words of encouragement. Instead, Harrison Bennett said, I want to help. Will you let me? Joyce's breath caught. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering, he said firmly. Joyce, 2 years ago I lost my wife to cancer. I watched her suffer. I would have given every penny I had to save her, but money can't cure everything. Your father has a chance. Let me give him that chance. Let me help you both. Why? Joyce whispered. You don't even know me. Because when I saw you collapse, I saw my wife in those final days, pushing herself beyond her limits, refusing to give up. I saw courage and love and sacrifice. And I saw someone who needed help but was too strong to ask for it. Sometimes, Joyce, we need to accept kindness. Sometimes we need to let people in. Joyce closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Every instinct told her to refuse, to insist she could handle it alone. But she couldn't. She was drowning and this man was throwing her a lifeline. Okay, she breathed. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, Harrison said, and she could hear the warmth in his voice. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself too. Your father needs you alive and healthy. I promise, Joyce said, meaning it for the first time in months. Good. I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow to arrange everything. And Joyce, you made the right choice. Sometimes accepting help is the bravest thing we can do. After they hung up, Joyce sat in the silence of her apartment, the business card still in her hand. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she could trust this generosity. But for the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Harrison Bennett's assistant called at exactly 9 o'clock the next morning. Her name was Veronica Peters and her voice was brisk but kind. Ms. Martinez, Mr. Bennett has asked me to coordinate your father's medical care. I'll need some information to get started. Joyce, sitting on her couch with a cup of coffee growing cold in her hands, rattled off her father's details. His name was Roberto Martinez, age 63, currently receiving treatment at St. Mary's Medical Center. Stage 3 colon cancer. The words felt heavy in her mouth, stones she had carried for too long. Perfect, Veronica said. Mr. Bennett has instructed me to contact St. Mary's directly. All outstanding bills will be paid in full, and future treatments will be covered. He's also arranging for your father to see Dr. Eleanor Wright, one of the top oncologists in the country. Joyce's coffee cup slipped from her numb fingers, splashing lukewarm liquid across her lap. She barely noticed. I'm sorry, what? Dr. Wright has a 3-month waiting list typically, but Mr. Bennett has personal connections. She'll see your father next week. I can't. Joyce couldn't form words. The bills on her coffee table, the ones that had haunted her dreams, were just going to disappear? Ms. Martinez, are you there? Yes, Joyce managed. I'm here. This is too much. I can't possibly repay." "Mr. Bennett doesn't expect repayment," Veronica said gently. "He simply wants to help. He asked me to tell you that the only thing he wants in return is for you to take care of yourself. He's quite insistent about that." After the call ended, Joyce sat frozen on her couch, staring at nothing. This couldn't be real. People didn't just do things like this. There had to be a catch, some hidden agenda. But what could a billionaire possibly want from her? Her phone rang again. This time, it was St. Mary's billing department. "Ms. Martinez, I'm calling about your father's account," the woman said. "I wanted to confirm that all outstanding balances have been paid in full, and future care is pre-authorized. You don't need to worry about any costs." Joyce started crying. She couldn't help it. The weight she had been carrying for months simply lifted, and the release was overwhelming. "Thank you," she sobbed into the phone. "Thank you so much." After she composed herself, Joyce drove straight to St. Mary's to see her father. Roberto Martinez was in his usual room on the third floor, sitting up in bed reading a worn paperback novel. He looked thin and tired, but his eyes lit up when Joyce walked in. "Mija," he said warmly, setting down his book. "You're early today." Joyce pulled a chair close to his bed and took his hand. His skin was papery thin, cool to the touch. "Papa, something happened. Something amazing." She told him everything. About collapsing at work, about Harrison Bennett, about the phone call and the bills being paid, and Dr. Wright. Roberto listened quietly, his expression growing more serious as she spoke. "This man," he said when she finished. "You don't know him?" "No, Papa. But he lost his wife to cancer. He says he wants to help because of that." Roberto was quiet for a long moment, studying his daughter's face. "You're scared?" he finally said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Joyce admitted. "What if there's a catch? What if he wants something in return that I can't give? What does your heart tell you?" Joyce closed her eyes, thinking about Harrison's voice on the phone. The gentleness in it. The understanding. "My heart says he's genuine. But I've been wrong before." "Your mother always said you had good instincts," Roberto said, squeezing her hand. "If this man is offering help with no strings, then we accept it with gratitude. Pride is a luxury we can't afford right now, Mija. And maybe this is God's way of providing for us." Joyce nodded, even as doubt gnawed at her. "I'm meeting with Dr. Wright next week. She's supposed to be one of the best." "Then we trust," Roberto said simply. "And we say thank you to the man who made it possible." The next few days passed in a blur. Joyce returned to her 40-hour work week, and for the first time in months she slept more than 4 hours a night. She still took shifts at the restaurant on weekends, unable to completely let go of the security multiple incomes provided. But the crushing pressure had eased. On Wednesday evening, as Joyce was finishing her shift at the hospital, she found Harrison Bennett sitting in the nurse's station, talking quietly with Patricia. He was tall, probably in his early 40s, with dark hair just beginning to silver at the temples. He wore a navy suit that probably cost more than Joyce's monthly rent, but his tie was loosened and his expression was kind. When he saw Joyce, he stood. "Ms. Martinez," he said, extending his hand. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I wanted to check on you myself." Joyce shook his hand, hyper-aware of her wrinkled scrubs and the fact that she probably smelled like antiseptic in long hours. "Mr. Bennett. Thank you. I don't even know where to start." "You don't have to thank me," he said. "But maybe we could talk for a few minutes? There's a coffee shop across the street." Joyce glanced at Patricia, who was watching them with undisguised curiosity. "I get off in 15 minutes. I'll wait." 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other in a quiet corner of the coffee shop. Harrison had ordered them both coffee and insisted on getting Joyce a sandwich, which she hadn't realized she was hungry for until she started eating. "Your assistant called?" Joyce said between bites. "She arranged everything. My father sees Dr. Wright next Tuesday." "Eleanor is excellent," Harrison said. "She helped my wife during her final year. If anyone can help your father, it's her." "I'm so sorry about your wife," Joyce said softly. "I can't imagine." Harrison's expression grew distant. "Her name was Rebecca. We were married for 15 years. She was diagnosed 3 years ago. Multiple myeloma. We tried everything but—" He trailed off, then seemed to shake himself. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring the mood down." "Don't apologize," Joyce said. "Grief is important. My mother died when I was 18. Brain aneurysm. One day she was there, the next she was gone. It's been 10 years and I still think about her every day." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, Two people who understood loss in a way others couldn't. "Can I ask you something?" Joyce said finally. "Why are you really doing this?" "I'm nobody. Just an overworked nurse you saw collapse. There are thousands of people like me." Harrison leaned back in his chair, considering. "When Rebecca was sick, I was fortunate enough to afford the best care possible. But money couldn't save her. In those final months I felt so helpless. I had all this wealth, all this power, and I couldn't save the person I loved most in the world." He paused, his eyes meeting Joyce's. "When I saw you collapse, I didn't see a stranger. I saw someone fighting with everything they had to save someone they loved. And I realized that maybe this was how I could honor Rebecca's memory. By helping people who are fighting the same battle we fought. People who have the courage to keep going even when it feels impossible." Joyce felt tears prick her eyes again. "That's beautiful. And incredibly kind. So you'll let me help? Without guilt or worry?" Joyce thought about her father's words. Pride is a luxury we can't afford. She thought about the weight that had lifted when those bills disappeared. She thought about hope. "Yes," she said firmly. "I'll accept your help with gratitude. But I want you to know that I will pay it forward someday. When I'm in a position to help someone else, I will." Harrison smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "I wouldn't expect anything less." They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing easily. Joyce learned that Harrison had a 12-year-old daughter named Lily, who was struggling with her mother's death. Harrison learned that Joyce had wanted to be a doctor but couldn't afford medical school, so she became a nurse instead. He learned about her neighborhood, her tiny apartment, her love of old movies. "You should come to dinner," Harrison said as they prepared to leave. "You and your father once he's feeling up to it. Lily would love to meet you both." "We'd like that," Joyce said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As Joyce drove home that night, she felt something unfamiliar settling in her chest. Not just hope but possibility. Maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for letting me help. And thank you for the conversation tonight. It's the first time in 2 years that I've felt like myself again. Harrison." Joyce smiled and saved the number in her phone. Dr. Eleanor Wright's office was nothing like the crowded, fluorescent-lit spaces Joyce was used to. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the furniture was comfortable rather than utilitarian. Everything spoke of care and attention to detail. Roberto sat beside Joyce in the waiting room, dressed in his best button-down shirt, a deep blue that brought color to his pale face. Joyce had helped him get ready that morning, her hands gentle as she'd adjusted his collar. "Ms. Martinez? Mr. Martinez?" A nurse appeared, smiling warmly. "Dr. Wright is ready for you." Dr. Wright was a woman in her late 50s with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that radiated competence. She shook both their hands firmly before gesturing to comfortable chairs arranged around her desk. "I've reviewed your file, Mr. Martinez," she said, pulling up scans on her computer screen. "Your current oncologist has done good work, but I think we can do better. I want to run some additional tests, look at some newer treatment protocols. The goal is not just remission but quality of life during treatment." For the next hour, Dr. Wright explained options Joyce had never heard of. Targeted therapies, immunotherapy combinations, clinical trials that weren't available at most hospitals. Her father listened intently, asking thoughtful questions, his hand gripping Joyce's tightly. "I'm not going to lie to you," Dr. Wright said finally. "This is still stage 3 cancer and the road ahead won't be easy. But I've seen remarkable results with patients in similar situations. You have a real chance here, Mr. Martinez. A good one." Roberto's eyes filled with tears. "When I was first diagnosed they gave me 18 months. Maybe 2 years with aggressive treatment. You're saying there's hope for more?" "I'm saying there's hope for much more," Dr. Wright said gently. "We start treatment next week." In the elevator afterward, Roberto pulled Joyce into a tight hug. "Thank you, Mija. Thank you for not giving up on me." Joyce held her father close, breathing in his familiar scent of Old Spice and peppermint. "Never, Papa. Never." That afternoon, Joyce received a text from Harrison. "How did the appointment go?" She called him instead of texting back, suddenly needing to hear his voice. He answered on the first ring. "She thinks she can help him," Joyce said, her voice thick with emotion. "Real help. Not just buying time, but actual remission." "That's wonderful news," Harrison said, and the genuine happiness in his voice warmed her. "Eleanor doesn't make promises she can't keep. If she's optimistic, that's a very good sign." "I don't know how to thank you." "You already have," Harrison said. "Listen, I know this is forward, but would you want to have dinner this weekend? You, your father, and Lily and I." Nothing fancy, just a meal with friends. Friends? The word settled something in Joyce's chest. We'd love that. What can I bring? Just yourselves, Harrison said. Saturday at 6? I'll text you the address. When Saturday arrived, Joyce helped her father into her aging Honda Civic, careful of the port in his chest where he'd received his first new treatment 2 days earlier. He looked tired but happy, dressed in a green sweater that Joyce had insisted he wear instead of his usual gray. Harrison's house was not what Joyce expected. Yes, it was large, in a neighborhood where houses had names instead of just numbers. But it wasn't ostentatious. It was a home with a basketball hoop over the garage and flowers in the garden and a bicycle lying on its side by the front door. Harrison answered the door in jeans and a red polo shirt, his feet bare. Joyce had never seen him in casual clothes, and something about the informality made her smile. Come in, he said warmly, shaking Roberto's hand and giving Joyce a quick hug that felt natural. Lily's in the kitchen. She insisted on making dessert. The interior was just as welcoming as the outside. Comfortable furniture, family photos on the walls, a lived-in quality that spoke of real life happening within these walls. Joyce had been expecting perfection, showroom quality. This was so much better. A girl appeared from the kitchen, thin and serious with dark hair and a ponytail. She wore a blue apron covered in flour. Hi, she said shyly. I'm Lily. I made brownies, but I think I might have added too much sugar. I'm sure they're perfect, Joyce said, charmed by the girl's earnestness. I'm Joyce and this is my father, Roberto. Mr. Martinez, Lily said formally, then seemed to catch herself. Or should I call you Roberto? Dad says it's important to ask people what they prefer. Roberto's face broke into a wide smile. Roberto is fine, young lady. And I'm sure your brownies are delicious. Dinner was simple but perfect. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, fresh bread. They ate in the dining room, but it didn't feel formal. Harrison told stories about Lily's adventures in middle school. Lily talked about her art class and how she was learning to paint with watercolors. Roberto shared stories about Joyce as a child, making everyone laugh. Joyce found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years. There was no pressure here, no expectations. Just good food and better company. After dinner, while Harrison and Roberto settled in the living room with coffee, Lily pulled Joyce aside. Want to see my mom's garden? She asked quietly. They stepped into the backyard, where the evening sun cast everything in soft light. At the far end of the yard was a beautiful garden, bursting with late-season flowers in every color. Mom planted all of this, Lily said, walking slowly between the flower beds. She loved gardening. Said it was her way of putting beauty into the world. It's lovely, Joyce said sincerely. The garden was clearly well maintained, even 2 years after Rebecca's death. Dad and I take care of it now, Lily said. It makes us feel close to her still. She paused, then turned to Joyce with serious eyes. Dad told me about your father's cancer. About how he's helping with the treatment. He's been incredibly kind, Joyce said carefully, unsure where this was going. He hasn't been happy since Mom died, Lily said quietly. I mean, he smiles and he does things with me and he goes to work. But he hasn't been really happy, you know? Not until he met you. Joyce's breath caught. Lily. I'm glad, Lily interrupted. I'm glad he has someone to talk to who understands. Someone who knows what it's like to be scared of losing someone you love. The girl's honesty was stunning. Joyce knelt down so they were eye level. Your dad is a very special person. And so are you. Thank you for sharing your mom's garden with me. Lily smiled, the first genuine smile Joyce had seen from her. You can come see it anytime. Mom would have liked you. When they returned inside, they found Harrison and Roberto deep in conversation about baseball, of all things. Roberto was animated in a way Joyce hadn't seen in months, gesturing as he talked about his beloved team. I should get Papa home, Joyce said reluctantly as the evening grew late. He needs his rest. Of course, Harrison said, standing. But let's do this again soon. Next time Joyce can cook. Roberto tells me you make excellent empanadas. Papa, Joyce groaned, but she was smiling. At the door, Harrison helped Roberto with his jacket, his touch gentle and careful. It was wonderful to meet you, sir, he said. I hope we'll see much more of each other. I'd like that, Roberto said, shaking Harrison's hand firmly. Thank you for everything. Not just the medical help but for this. For treating us like family. In the car on the way home, Roberto was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. That's a good man, Mija. A very good man. Yes, Joyce agreed softly. He is. And his daughter needs someone like you in her life. Someone who understands loss. Papa. I'm just saying, Roberto said, settling back in his seat with a small smile. Sometimes good things happen to good people. Sometimes we need to let them. That night, Joyce lay in bed thinking about the evening. About Lily's garden and Harrison's laugh and the way her father had looked happy for the first time in months. About how quickly these people had become important to her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Harrison, "Thank you for tonight. Lily hasn't smiled like that since Rebecca died. You're good for her. You're good for both of us." Joyce stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "You're good for us too. Thank you for everything." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "This is just the beginning, Joyce. I promise you that." Joyce set her phone down, her heart full. For the first time in a very long time she was excited about the future. Not just surviving but living. And maybe, just maybe, finding something she hadn't even known she was looking for. The next 2 months passed in a blur of hospital visits, family dinners, and slowly blooming friendship. Roberto's treatments with Dr. Wright were showing remarkable progress. His latest scans showed the tumors shrinking, his energy returning bit by bit. He'd even started walking around the block each morning, something Joyce had once thought impossible. Harrison had become a regular presence in their lives. He'd stop by the hospital during Roberto's treatments, always bringing coffee and conversation. He'd show up at Joyce's apartment with takeout on her late shifts, insisting she needed to eat proper meals. And every weekend they'd gather at his house for dinner. Lily had attached herself to Joyce with quiet devotion. The girl would text her throughout the week, sharing art projects and asking advice about school problems. Joyce found herself looking forward to these messages, this connection with a child who needed someone to understand her grief. One Saturday afternoon in early December, Joyce arrived at Harrison's house to find Lily sitting on the front steps, her face tear-streaked. "Lily? Sweetie, what's wrong?" Joyce sat beside her, putting an arm around the girl's thin shoulders. "There's a winter concert at school," Lily said, her voice thick. "All the kids are supposed to perform with their parents. I have a piano solo and Dad will be there, but—" She trailed off, fresh tears falling. "But you miss your mom," Joyce finished gently. Lily nodded miserably. "She was the musical one. She taught me piano. She would have been so excited about the concert. And now it's just this reminder that she's gone." Joyce pulled the girl closer. "Can I tell you something? My mom died when I was 18. And every milestone after that, every important moment, there was this hole where she should have been. My nursing school graduation, my first day of work, even just regular Tuesdays when I wanted to call her." "Does it ever stop hurting?" Lily asked. "No," Joyce said honestly. "But the hurt changes. It becomes part of your love for them instead of just pain. And you learn to carry it differently." They sat together for a while, watching leaves skitter across the lawn. "Would you come?" Lily asked finally. "To my concert? I know you're not my mom, but I'd like you to be there. Both you and Dad." Joyce's heart clenched. "I would be honored. When is it?" "Next Friday at 7. "I'll be there," Joyce promised. Front row. That evening, while Lily was upstairs practicing her piano piece, Joyce found Harrison in his study, staring at a framed photo on his desk. It showed him with a beautiful woman with Lily's same dark hair, both of them laughing at something off camera. "Rebecca," Joyce said softly. Harrison looked up, not bothering to hide the sadness in his eyes. "Her birthday would have been next week. 42. I've been thinking about that all day." Joyce came to stand beside him, looking down at the photo. "She was beautiful. She was everything," Harrison said quietly. "Funny and smart and kind. She made me want to be a better person." He paused. "I never thought I'd be able to talk about her without falling apart. But with you it feels okay. Safe." "Grief needs witnesses," Joyce said. "That's what my nursing instructor told me once. We need people who will sit with us in the pain and not try to fix it or rush us through it." Harrison stood, moving to look out the window at the garden Rebecca had planted. "Lily asked you to the concert." "She did. I hope that's okay." "It's more than okay," Harrison said, turning to face her. "Joyce, I need to tell you something, and I hope it won't make things awkward between us." Joyce's heart began to race. "What is it?" "I'm falling in love with you," Harrison said simply. "I've been falling for weeks now and I can't keep pretending I'm not. The way you love your father, the way you've welcomed Lily, the way you make me laugh, the way you understand loss without letting it define you. You're remarkable and I—" He trailed off, looking uncertain for the first time since she'd met him. Joyce couldn't breathe. She'd felt the pull between them, had caught herself thinking about him at odd moments, had started choosing her clothes more carefully on days she knew she'd see him. But she told herself it was just gratitude, just friendship. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I'm scared because I'm falling for you too, and I don't know if that's real or if it's just because you saved my father. I don't want to confuse gratitude with love." Harrison crossed the room to stand in front of her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Then let's take this slow. Let's figure it out together. There's no rush, Joyce. I just needed you to know how I felt." "I need time," Joyce said. "To be sure. To know my own heart." "Take all the time you need," Harrison said gently. "I'm not going anywhere." Later that week, Joyce sat with her father during his treatment session. He looked stronger now, color in his cheeks, hope in his eyes. The poison dripping into his veins was working, killing the cancer that had tried to steal him away. "Papa," Joyce said hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" "Always, Mija. How did you know you loved Mama? How did you know it was real?" Roberto smiled, his eyes distant with memory. "Your mother made the world make sense. Before her, I was just going through the motions of life. After her, everything had color and purpose. She made me want to be the man she saw when she looked at me." Harrison said something similar about Rebecca, Joyce said softly. "And how does Harrison make you feel?" Joyce thought about it. "Like I can breathe again. Like I'm not just surviving but living. He makes me laugh. He makes me think. And when I'm with him and Lily, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Roberto took her hand. "That's love, Mija. Real love isn't just fireworks and passion. It's finding someone who makes you want to be better while accepting you exactly as you are." "But what if I'm confusing gratitude with love?" "He saved your life, Papa. He gave you your father back," Roberto agreed. "But that's not why you love him. You love him because of who he is, not what he's done. I see the way you look at each other. I see how careful he is with your heart, how patient. That's not a man trying to take advantage of gratitude. That's a man falling in love with a remarkable woman." Joyce felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I'm so scared of losing people I love. I lost Mama. I almost lost you. What if you spend your whole life too scared to love anyone?" Roberto interrupted gently. "What kind of life is that? Love is always a risk, Mija. But it's the only risk worth taking." That Friday, Joyce stood in the school auditorium, Harrison beside her, as Lily walked onto the stage in a green velvet dress. The girl looked small under the bright lights, but when she sat at the piano and placed her hands on the keys, something shifted in her posture. She played beautifully, a piece Joyce recognized as Debussy's Clair de Lune. The notes floated through the auditorium, achingly lovely. And when Lily finished, standing to take her bow, her eyes found Joyce and Harrison in the audience. Joyce saw the moment Lily's composure cracked, tears starting to fall even as she smiled. Joyce was on her feet before she'd made a conscious decision, Harrison right beside her, both of them applauding with everything they had. After the concert, Lily ran to them and Joyce caught her in a fierce hug. "You were amazing," Joyce whispered. "So incredibly amazing." "Mom would have been proud," Lily said, her voice muffled against Joyce's shoulder. "Your mom is proud," Joyce said firmly. "Wherever she is, she heard that beautiful music and she's so proud of you." Harrison pulled them both into his arms, the three of them standing together in the busy hallway, a small island of connection in the chaos. And Joyce knew with sudden certainty what her answer would be. Later that night, after they'd taken Lily home and she was safely upstairs, Joyce and Harrison stood in the kitchen. He was making tea, a habit she'd learned he'd picked up from Rebecca. "Harrison," Joyce said. He turned, 2 mugs in his hands. "I love you," Joyce said simply. "Not because you saved my father, although I'll be grateful for that forever. But because you're kind and patient and wonderful. Because you make me laugh and you let me cry. Because you love your daughter with everything you have and you honor your wife's memory without letting it stop you from living. I love you and I'm terrified, but I want to try this. I want to see where this goes." Harrison set the mugs down carefully, and then he was crossing the kitchen, pulling her into his arms. "I love you too," he breathed against her hair. "God, Joyce, I love you so much." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home. Like finding something she hadn't known she'd been searching for. It was gentle and sure and full of promise. Upstairs, neither of them noticed Lily watching from the landing, a smile on her face as she finally went to bed. The days leading up to Christmas were filled with a joy Joyce had almost forgotten existed. Roberto's latest scans had shown even more improvement. Dr. Wright used words like remarkable response and better than expected. They weren't talking about cure yet, but remission seemed possible, maybe even probable. Joyce had cut back to just her nursing job, finally letting go of the restaurant shifts. With her father's medical bills covered, she could afford to breathe. She'd even started taking a watercolor painting class on Wednesday evenings, something she'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Harrison had made it clear that there were no expectations, no timelines. They were dating, yes, but at their own pace. Sometimes that meant quiet dinners at his house with Lily and Roberto. Sometimes it meant stolen moments alone, long conversations over coffee, walks through the winter park bundled in coats and scarves. Lily had become a constant presence in Joyce's life. The girl would video call her to show off art projects, to talk about books she was reading, to ask advice about everything from homework to friendship drama at school. And Joyce discovered that she loved this role, this chance to be important to a child who needed guidance and love. "You're good with her," Harrison said one evening as they watched Lily and Roberto play chess in his living room. Roberto was teaching her strategy, his gentle patience making Lily giggle when she made mistakes. "She's easy to love," Joyce said. "She's so much like you. Thoughtful and kind." "She has Rebecca's sensitivity," Harrison said softly. "Her creativity. She processes the world through art the same way Rebecca did through music." They'd learned to talk about Rebecca naturally. Joyce had seen photos, heard stories, learned about the woman who had shaped Harrison's life. And she'd never felt threatened by that memory. Rebecca was part of who Harrison was, part of why he could love so deeply. "I want to tell you something," Harrison said, taking Joyce's hand. "I've been thinking about this for a while now." Joyce's heart sped up. "What is it?" "My company has a foundation, the Bennett Medical Foundation. We provide grants for medical research and help families who can't afford treatment. But I want to expand it. Create a program specifically for people in your situation. People who are working themselves to death to save someone they love." "Harrison, that's wonderful," Joyce said. "I want you to run it," he said. "Not as a favor or as charity. But because you understand what these families are going through. You know what they need, what would actually help. I've seen you with patients at the hospital. You have a gift for connecting with people, for making them feel heard." Joyce stared at him. "Run it? But I don't have experience with that kind of thing. I'm a nurse." "You have the most important experience, you've lived it," Harrison said. "Everything else we can teach you. There would be training, support, a team to work with. Think about it, Joyce. You could help hundreds of families avoid what you went through." The idea was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Harrison said, squeezing her hand. "Take all the time you need." That night, Joyce talked to her father about it. They sat in his hospital room. He was staying overnight for monitoring after his latest treatment, and she laid out Harrison's proposal. "What are you scared of?" Roberto asked when she'd finished. "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" "Mija, you've never not been good enough," Roberto said firmly. "You put yourself through nursing school. You worked 3 jobs to keep me alive. You fought for everything you have. Why would this be any different?" "Because it matters," Joyce said quietly. "Because I'd be helping people who are in the same desperate place I was. What if I let them down?" Roberto reached for her hand. "You won't. You know why? Because you care too much to let that happen. And you'll have help. You don't have to do everything alone anymore." Joyce let those words sink in. She'd spent so long being strong by herself, carrying everything on her own shoulders. The idea of having support, of working with a team toward something meaningful, was foreign and wonderful. "I think I want to say yes," she said. "Then say yes," Roberto smiled. "Say yes to the job. Say yes to Harrison. Say yes to this life you're building. You deserve happiness, Mija. Stop being afraid of it." The next day, Joyce told Harrison she'd take the position. His joy was immediate and infectious, pulling her into a hug that lifted her off her feet. "We'll start in January," he said. "Give you time to transition from the hospital, get training. You're going to be amazing at this." "I hope so," Joyce said. "I really hope so." That weekend was Christmas Eve and they decided to spend it together, all 4 of them. Joyce and Roberto came to Harrison's house early in the afternoon to help prepare dinner. Lily had insisted on making sugar cookies, and soon the kitchen was covered in flour and frosting and sprinkles. "This was Rebecca's favorite part of Christmas," Harrison said, watching Lily and Joyce decorate cookies together, their heads bent close as they laughed. "The mess and the chaos and the joy. She had good taste," Joyce said, looking up at him with a smile that made his heart skip. They ate dinner in the dining room, lit with candles and strung with lights Lily had carefully arranged. Ham and roasted potatoes and fresh rolls. Roberto said grace, his voice strong and sure, thanking God for healing and for family and for second chances. After dinner, they gathered in the living room around the tree. Lily had made gifts for everyone, watercolor paintings mounted on cardboard. For Roberto, she'd painted a baseball stadium. For Joyce, a garden full of flowers. For her father, a sunrise. "They're beautiful, sweetheart," Harrison said, hugging his daughter close. "Your mom would be so proud of your talent." Roberto gave Harrison a book of poetry, carefully chosen. Harrison gave Roberto a vintage baseball jersey he tracked down online. Joyce had knitted a blue scarf for Lily, who immediately wrapped it around her neck and declared it perfect. Then Harrison handed Joyce a small wrapped box. She opened it carefully to find a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant, a compass rose. "For finding your way," Harrison said quietly. "For always knowing which direction to go." Joyce felt tears prick her eyes as he fastened it around her neck. "It's perfect. Thank you." "I have something for you too," Joyce said, handing him an envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten on nice paper. Harrison read it silently, his expression growing softer with each line. Joyce had written about what he meant to her, how he'd saved not just her father but her. How he'd given her back the ability to hope and dream and love. When he finished, Harrison pulled her close, not caring that Lily and Roberto were watching. "This is the best gift anyone has ever given me," he whispered. Later, after Roberto had gone home and Lily was in bed, Harrison and Joyce sat together on the couch, the tree lights casting soft shadows. "I want to tell you something," Harrison said. "And I want you to know there's no pressure, no timeline." "Okay," Joyce said, her heart starting to race. "I want a future with you," Harrison said simply. "Not just dating, not just for now. I want you in my life permanently. You and Roberto both. I want us to be a family, you, me, Lily, and your father. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to build a life together." Joyce felt tears spill over. "Harrison. I'm not proposing," he said quickly. "Not yet. I know we need more time. But I wanted you to know that's where my heart is. That's what I'm working toward. And I'll wait as long as you need to be ready." Joyce kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. "I want that too," she whispered against his lips. "I want all of it. With you." They sat together in the soft glow of the Christmas tree, holding each other close, both of them thinking about the future they were building together. A future full of love and hope and second chances. Upstairs, Lily texted her best friend, "I think my dad's going to marry Joyce. And I hope he does. She makes him happy again." And in his own home, Roberto looked at the painting Lily had made him, at the baseball stadium rendered in careful detail. He thought about his daughter, about the happiness he'd seen in her eyes tonight. He thought about how close he'd come to leaving her alone. Thank God for second chances, he thought. Thank God for people who choose kindness. January brought cold winds and new beginnings. Joyce started her position as director of the Family Care Initiative at the Bennett Medical Foundation on the first Monday of the year. She arrived at the foundation's downtown office building nervous and excited, dressed in a professional green dress that Harrison had insisted was perfect. The office was beautiful but not intimidating. Large windows overlooked the city. The conference rooms had comfortable chairs and art on the walls. Everything spoke of caring about the people who worked there and the families they served. "Joyce, welcome," said Thomas Reed, the foundation's executive director. He was a warm man in his 50s with graying hair and kind eyes. "Let me show you around and introduce you to your team." Her team consisted of 3 people. Angela Rodriguez, a social worker in her 40s who had been with the foundation for years. Marcus Chin, a recent college graduate who was enthusiastic about every aspect of the work. And Patricia O'Connor, yes, the same Patricia from the hospital who had decided to make the jump to the foundation when she heard about the new program. "Patricia?" Joyce said, delighted. "I had no idea you'd applied." "Are you kidding?" Patricia laughed. "When I heard you were running a program to help families like yours, I couldn't apply fast enough. We're going to do amazing things, honey." The first weeks were intensive training. Joyce learned about grant writing, program development, case management systems, and nonprofit regulations. She attended meetings with hospital administrators, met with insurance companies, and spoke with families who needed help. Every evening she'd come home exhausted but energized. Harrison would often be waiting at her apartment with dinner, ready to listen as she talked about her day. He'd offer advice when asked but mostly just listened, proud of how quickly she was learning and growing. "I met a family today," Joyce said one evening as they ate Thai food on her couch. A single father with a 6-year-old daughter. His wife died last year and now his daughter has leukemia. He was working 3 jobs just like I was. Barely seeing her. Missing her treatments because he couldn't afford to take time off. What did you do? Harrison asked. We're covering all her medical costs. Set him up with a social worker for counseling, both of them need it. And I got him a grant that will cover 3 months of lost wages so he can actually be with her during treatment. Joyce's eyes filled with tears. Harrison, he cried. He just stood there in my office and cried because someone was helping him. Harrison pulled her close. That's what you do now. You give people hope. You did that for me, you know. When I met you, I'd been going through the motions for 2 years. You reminded me what it feels like to really live. Joyce kissed him softly. We saved each other. At the hospital, Roberto's treatments continued to go well. By late January, Dr. Wright used the word remission for the first time. The cancer markers in his blood were at their lowest levels since diagnosis. The tumors had shrunk to almost nothing. I want to be clear, Dr. Wright said carefully. We're not talking cure here. You'll need regular monitoring, continued treatment. But Mr. Martinez, you're in remission. The cancer is no longer progressing. Roberto sat very still for a moment, then reached for Joyce's hand. How long? He asked. I can't predict the future, Dr. Wright said honestly. But with continued treatment and monitoring? Years. Possibly many years. That night, Joyce, Harrison, Lily, and Roberto celebrated at Harrison's house. They ordered pizza and watched old movies and nobody mentioned the word cancer once. They just enjoyed being together, being alive, being a family. Can I ask you something? Lily said to Joyce during a quiet moment while Harrison and Roberto argued good-naturedly about which baseball team was best. Anything, sweetie. Are you going to marry my dad? Joyce's breath caught. Lily. It's okay if you are, Lily said quickly. I want you to. You make him happy. And you make me happy too. It's like having a mom again but different. You're not trying to replace her or make me forget her. You're just, you. Joyce pulled the girl into a hug, overcome with emotion. I love your dad very much. And I love you too. If he asks me, I'm going to say yes. Good, Lily said, settling against Joyce's side. Because we need you. We're better when you're here. In February, Harrison invited Joyce to attend a charity gala with him. It would be the first time they appeared together publicly as a couple, and Joyce was nervous. What if people think I'm with you for your money? She worried as they got ready. Then they don't know you, Harrison said simply. And their opinion doesn't matter. Joyce wore a deep red dress she'd found on sale, simple but elegant. Harrison couldn't take his eyes off her. The gala was held in a hotel ballroom, full of wealthy donors and foundation supporters. Joyce recognized several hospital administrators and doctors. People kept approaching Harrison, and he introduced Joyce to everyone as the woman I love who runs our new family care program. Tell us about it, one woman said, genuinely interested. Joyce found herself explaining the program, her passion for the work evident in every word. She told stories, carefully anonymous, about families they'd helped. She talked about the importance of treating healthcare as a human right, not a privilege. By the end of the evening, 3 major donors had committed additional funding to her program. And Joyce had discovered that she was good at this, at speaking about what mattered and making people care. You were amazing, Harrison said as they danced later in the evening. Half the room was in tears during your speech. I just told them the truth, Joyce said. About what it's like to watch someone you love suffer because you can't afford to help them. About the dignity that comes from accepting help when you need it. Harrison pulled her closer. I love you. Have I mentioned that lately? Not in the last hour, Joyce teased. Then I'm overdue. I love you, Joyce Martinez. I love everything about you. March brought spring and new challenges. One of Joyce's families was in crisis. A teenage boy named Carlos had been doing well after a liver transplant, but now he was rejecting the organ. He needed to be relisted for another transplant, but his family's insurance had hit its lifetime maximum. Joyce worked for 3 days straight, making calls and sending emails and fighting bureaucracy. She pulled in every favor she could, called in Harrison when she needed help with hospital administration, and refused to give up. On the 3rd day she got the call. Carlos was relisted, and the foundation would cover all costs not handled by insurance. She sat at her desk and cried with relief. You're going to burn yourself out, Patricia said gently, bringing Joyce a cup of tea. You can't save everyone, honey. I have to try, Joyce said. These families, they're me 6 months ago. If no one had helped me, my father would be dead. How can I not fight for them? Because you're human, Patricia said. And you need to take care of yourself too. That evening Harrison found Joyce still at her office at 8 o'clock. He didn't say anything, just gathered her things and led her out to his car. "You're coming home with me," he said. "Lily's at a friend's house for a sleepover. We're going to eat actual food, you're going to take a bath, and then we're going to talk about healthy boundaries." Joyce was too tired to argue. At Harrison's house, he made her a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup, simple comfort food. Then he ran her a bath with lavender bath salts and told her to take her time. When she emerged an hour later in borrowed sweatpants and one of his t-shirts, he was waiting with hot chocolate. "You're taking tomorrow off," he said. It wasn't a suggestion. "I can't." "You can and you will," Harrison interrupted gently. "Joyce, I love that you care so deeply. But you can't help anyone if you work yourself to death. Remember what happened the last time you pushed too hard." Joyce remembered collapsing in the hospital corridor. Remembered the fear and the darkness and the certainty that she couldn't keep going. "You're right," she admitted. "I've been so focused on not being that desperate person anymore that I forgot I still need to take care of myself." "Because people love you," Harrison said. "Your father needs you. Lily needs you. I need you. And all those families need you healthy and whole, not burned out and exhausted." Joyce set down her hot chocolate and moved to sit beside him on the couch. "When did you get so wise?" "When I met a nurse who taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's strength," Harrison said, kissing her forehead. They fell asleep on the couch together, wrapped in blankets, the television playing quietly. And when Joyce woke up in the morning with Harrison's arms around her, she felt more rested than she had in weeks. She was learning, slowly, that she didn't have to carry everything alone anymore. That having people who loved her meant letting them help when she needed it. That trust was built in moments like this, when someone saw you at your worst and loved you anyway. April brought Roberto's 64th birthday, and they planned a celebration at Harrison's house. Roberto had gained weight, his color was good, and he'd started volunteering at a community center teaching English to immigrants. He was living, not just surviving. Joyce arrived early to help with preparations, and found Lily in the kitchen frosting a chocolate cake she'd made from scratch. "It's not as pretty as Mom's used to be," Lily said, frowning at her uneven frosting. "She could make roses out of icing. Mine just look like blobs." "Your grandfather won't care," Joyce said, coming to stand beside her. "He'll love it because you made it with care." "Will you help me?" Lily asked. "I want it to be special." For the next hour, Joyce and Lily worked together, fixing the frosting and adding decorations. They talked about school and Lily's upcoming art show and the boy in her class who might like her. "Do you think Dad's going to propose soon?" Lily asked casually as she added candles to the cake. Joyce nearly dropped the piping bag. "What makes you ask that?" "He's been happy," Lily said. "Really happy. And he keeps looking at you like you're the best thing in the world. Plus, I heard him on the phone with Grandma Bennett last week talking about rings." Joyce's heart raced. "Lily, even if he is thinking about it, I don't know when or how. And you can't say anything to him." "I won't," Lily promised. "But I hope he does it soon. I want us to be a real family." "Is that weird?" "Not even a little bit," Joyce said, pulling the girl into a hug. "I want that too." Roberto arrived at 5, Harrison driving him. He'd sold his old car the month before, no longer needing 3 forms of transportation to 3 different jobs. Now he rode the bus to his volunteer work or accepted rides from friends he'd made there. "Mija," he said, hugging Joyce tight. "This is too much fuss." "It's not enough fuss," Joyce said firmly. "You're alive and healthy in here. That deserves celebration." They ate dinner on the back patio, enjoying the warm spring evening. Grilled steaks, roasted vegetables, fresh bread. Lily presented her cake with pride, and Roberto declared it the best he'd ever tasted. After dinner, Harrison stood and cleared his throat. "I want to say something. Roberto, when I met your daughter, I was going through the motions of living. I'd lost my wife and I'd forgotten how to feel real joy. Then I saw Joyce collapse and something in me woke up. I saw someone fighting with everything they had for someone they loved." He paused, looking at Roberto. "You raised an incredible woman. Someone who knows the value of sacrifice and love and loyalty. Someone who never gives up even when the odds are impossible. And by helping her, by helping you, I found my way back to living. So thank you, sir, for raising the woman I love. And thank you for welcoming me and Lily into your family." Roberto's eyes filled with tears. He stood and embraced Harrison. "You saved my life. Both of you did. And you've given my daughter happiness I wasn't sure she'd ever find. Thank you." Later, as they sat around the fire pit in the backyard, roasting marshmallows and telling stories, Joyce watched her little family and felt complete. Her father healthy and laughing. Lily relaxed and happy. Harrison, his hand warm in hers. "I have something to tell you all," Roberto said during a quiet moment. "I've been thinking about this for a while and I've decided. I'm going to write a book." "A book?" Joyce asked, delighted. "About my experience with cancer. About what it's like to face death and find hope again. About the kindness of strangers who become family." He looked at Harrison. "I want to tell our story if that's okay with you." "More than okay," Harrison said. "I think it could help a lot of people." "What are you going to call it?" Lily asked. Roberto smiled. "When Mercy Found Us." In May, Joyce's program received national recognition. A major magazine did a feature story about the foundation's work, with Joyce as the face of the initiative. The article included photos of her at work, interviewing families and visiting patients. It talked about her own experience and how it had inspired the program. The day the article came out, Joyce's phone wouldn't stop ringing. News stations wanted interviews. Other foundations wanted to know how to replicate the program. Families from across the country reached out, desperate for help. "I don't know how to handle this," Joyce admitted to Harrison that evening. She was overwhelmed by the response, thrilled but terrified. "You don't have to handle it alone," Harrison said. "We'll hire more staff. Expand the program. Use this attention to help even more people." "It feels too big," Joyce said. "You're not the same woman who was afraid to accept help," Harrison reminded her. "You've grown. You're ready for this." He was right. Over the next few weeks, Joyce worked with Thomas Reed to expand the program. They hired 3 new case managers and a grants coordinator. They created partnerships with hospitals in 5 states. The work was hard but rewarding, and Joyce threw herself into it with renewed energy. In June they took a weekend trip, just the 4 of them. They rented a beach house on the coast, spending days in the sand and evenings cooking together. Lily and Roberto built an enormous sandcastle. Joyce and Harrison walked the beach at sunset. "I've been thinking," Harrison said as they watched the waves roll in, "about the future. About what I want my life to look like." "And what do you want?" Joyce asked, her heart beginning to race. "I want this," Harrison said simply. "These people. This feeling. I want to wake up every morning knowing that I'm spending my life with people I love, doing work that matters. I want you, Joyce. Forever." "Are you?" Joyce couldn't finish the sentence. "Not yet," Harrison said, smiling. "When I propose it will be perfect. Planned. Memorable. But I wanted you to know that it's coming. That I'm sure. That I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Joyce kissed him, pouring all her love and joy and hope into it. "I'm sure too," she whispered. "I'm so sure." That night, sleeping in the beach house with the sound of waves outside the window, Joyce dreamed of the future. A wedding. A life built together. Growing old with this man who had saved her in every way a person could be saved. She had started this year desperate and alone, working herself to death with no hope in sight. And now she had everything. A father in remission. A job she loved. A man who cherished her. A girl who had become like a daughter. Sometimes miracles happened. Sometimes kindness changed everything. Sometimes, when you stopped fighting alone and accepted help, the whole world opened up. In the other bedroom, Lily texted her grandmother, "I think Dad's going to propose soon. Joyce is the best thing that ever happened to us. Even Mom would approve." "I know she would." And Roberto in his room wrote in the journal he'd started for his book, "Today I watched my daughter be truly happy. Not just grateful or content but genuinely joyful. Harrison has given her that. He's given us all a second chance at life, at family, at love. Some people are angels in disguise. I believe that more than ever now." The hospital's annual charity gala in early July was the social event of the season, and this year Joyce was being honored with the Humanitarian Award for her work with the Family Care Initiative. The news had come as a complete surprise, delivered by Thomas Reed with a grin and congratulations. "I don't deserve an award," Joyce had protested. "I'm just doing my job." "You're changing lives," Thomas had said firmly. "Accept the recognition gracefully." Now, standing in front of her mirror in the blue dress Harrison had insisted on buying her for the occasion, Joyce hardly recognized herself. Not physically, though she looked elegant and polished. But the woman staring back at her was confident, hopeful, alive in a way she hadn't been a year ago. "You look beautiful," her father said from the doorway. He was dressed in a navy suit, looking healthy and strong. The cancer was still in remission, his last scans completely clear. "Your mother would be so proud of you, Mija." "I wish she could see this," Joyce said softly. "She can," Roberto said with certainty. "And she's smiling." Harrison picked them up at 6, with Lily beside him in a green dress with white flowers. The girl had asked specifically to attend, wanting to support Joyce. "You're stunning," Harrison said when he saw Joyce, his eyes warm with love and something else, something that made her heart skip. The gala was held at the city's Grand Hotel, the ballroom transformed with lights and flowers and elegance. Joyce had been to the event last year as a guest, but being honored was different. Overwhelming. "Breathe," Harrison whispered in her ear as they entered. "You've got this." The evening passed in a blur of congratulations and photographs. Joyce sat at a table with Harrison, Lily, Roberto, Patricia, and Thomas. She barely tasted the food, too nervous about her acceptance speech. When her name was called, Harrison squeezed her hand. "Go show them who you are." Joyce walked to the podium on shaking legs. The ballroom was full of hundreds of people, all looking at her. She gripped the award, a beautiful crystal piece, and took a breath. "A year ago I was dying," she began, her voice surprisingly steady. "Not from disease but from exhaustion and desperation. I was working 3 jobs trying to save my father from cancer and I was failing. I collapsed in a hospital corridor, certain that I'd lost everything." She saw Roberto in the audience, tears already streaming down his face. "But someone saw me fall. Someone who had every reason to walk away decided to help instead. Harrison Bennett didn't just pay my father's medical bills. He gave me back my life. He showed me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That we're not meant to carry our burdens alone." Joyce paused, gathering her courage for what she wanted to say next. "I've learned that kindness creates ripples. One act of mercy touched my life, and now I get to pass that mercy forward to hundreds of families. That's what this award really represents, not my work but the power of choosing to care about each other. Of seeing someone struggling and deciding to help, even when you don't have to." She looked directly at Harrison. "So I accept this award with deep gratitude, not just for myself but for everyone who has chosen compassion over indifference. Thank you for this honor. I promise to keep paying it forward." The applause was thunderous. As Joyce returned to her seat, Harrison stood and pulled her into a kiss that made the whole room cheer. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. After dinner there was dancing. Harrison led Joyce onto the floor for a slow song, holding her close. "Remember when I said I'd planned the perfect proposal?" he murmured. "Yes," Joyce breathed, her heart suddenly racing. "I was wrong. There's no perfect time or place. There's just perfect people and perfect love." He pulled back slightly to look into her eyes. "Joyce Martinez, you've made me believe in second chances. You've made my daughter smile again. You've shown me that life doesn't end with loss, it transforms into something new and beautiful." He reached into his jacket pocket and dropped to one knee right there on the dance floor. The music stopped. People gasped. And Joyce felt the world narrow to just the two of them. "Will you marry me?" Harrison asked, opening a small box to reveal a stunning ring with a single perfect diamond. "Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to make you as happy as you've made me?" Joyce didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." Harrison slipped the ring on her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet as he kissed her. The ballroom erupted in applause and cheers. Lily was jumping up and down at their table. Roberto was crying and laughing at the same time. When they finally made it back to their table, Lily threw herself into Joyce's arms. "I'm getting a mom," she said, her voice thick with joy. "I'm really getting a mom." "If you'll have me," Joyce said, holding the girl tight. "Are you kidding? I've been hoping for this for months." Roberto hugged them both. "Welcome to the family officially," he said to Harrison. "Take care of my girl." "With my life," Harrison promised. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of happiness. People kept congratulating them. Joyce couldn't stop looking at the ring on her finger, couldn't stop smiling. Harrison kept her close, his arm around her waist, looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "When?" Lily asked as they ate cake later. "When's the wedding?" "Soon," Harrison said, looking at Joyce. "If that's okay with you. I don't want to wait." "Neither do I," Joyce admitted. "Why wait when we're sure?" They decided on September, just 2 months away. A small ceremony, they agreed. Just family and close friends. Nothing elaborate or showy. Just a celebration of love and second chances. That night, Harrison drove Joyce and Roberto home. At Joyce's door, he kissed her goodnight with a tenderness that made her melt. "I love you," he said. "Future Mrs. Bennett." "I love you too," Joyce whispered. "Thank you for finding me. For saving me." "You saved me right back," Harrison said. "We saved each other." Inside her apartment, Joyce sat on her couch and called Patricia, who answered on the first ring. "I saw the proposal," Patricia said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Joyce, honey, I'm so happy for you." "I can't believe it's real," Joyce said, staring at her ring. "A year ago, I was on the floor of that hospital corridor thinking my life was over. And now you're getting married to a wonderful man, your father's healthy, you're doing work that matters. That's what happens when you let people help you. When you open your heart to possibilities." After they hung up, Joyce sat in the quiet of her apartment, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. The desperation and fear. The moment she'd decided to call Harrison's number. The slow building of trust and love. All of it had led to this moment. Her phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Can I be a bridesmaid? Please, please, please." Joyce smiled and typed back, "I was hoping you'd be my maid of honor." 3 dots appeared immediately, then, "Really?" 1G yes. "This is the best day ever." Joyce set her phone down and looked at the ring on her finger, watching it catch the light. She thought about Harrison's proposal, about the way he'd looked at her with such love and certainty. She thought about her father, healthy and writing his book and volunteering his time to help others. She thought about Lily, blossoming under love and attention. She thought about her work, helping families avoid the desperation she'd once felt. Everything had changed because one man had seen her fall and decided to help. Because he'd refused to let her suffer alone. Because he'd believed she was worth saving. And in saving her, he'd saved himself too. They'd found healing together, built something beautiful from shared loss and hope. Joyce went to bed that night with a smile on her face and love in her heart, dreaming of her wedding day and all the days after. Dreaming of the life they'd build together, the family they'd create, the love they'd share. Sometimes the darkest moments led to the brightest futures. Sometimes hitting rock bottom was just the beginning. Sometimes all you needed was one person who cared enough to reach down and lift you up. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, that person became your forever. The next morning, Joyce woke to her phone buzzing constantly. News of Harrison's proposal had spread, and people were reaching out with congratulations. Her coworkers, families from her program, old nursing school friends. Even Dr. Wright sent a warm message. But the most important call came from Harrison at 7 o'clock. "Good morning, my fiancé," he said, his voice warm and happy. "Good morning," Joyce said, unable to stop smiling. "Is this real? Did last night actually happen?" "Look at your left hand," Harrison laughed. "It's very real. And I hope you're free today because Lily has big plans for wedding planning." "Already?" "She's been making lists since we got home last night. She has binder." Joyce laughed, delighted. "Tell her I'll be there at 10. She spent the morning with her father, having breakfast and talking about the proposal. Roberto was thrilled, his happiness evident in every word. "He asked for my blessing 2 weeks ago," Roberto admitted. "Came to my apartment, nervous as a teenager. Said he wanted to do things properly, wanted my approval before he proposed." "Papa," Joyce said, her eyes filling with tears. "You didn't tell me." "He asked me not to. Wanted it to be a surprise." Roberto reached across the table to take her hand. "Mija, I told him yes without hesitation. That man loves you with his whole heart. And he honors me by asking. That's the kind of man you want to build a life with." At Harrison's house, Joyce found Lily at the dining room table surrounded by wedding magazines, notebooks and fabric samples. "Okay," Lily said seriously. "I've been researching. September gives us 8 weeks. That's tight but doable for a small wedding. First question, indoor or outdoor?" Joyce sat down, charmed by the girl's intensity. "What do you think?" "Outdoor," Lily said immediately. "In the garden. Mom's garden. I think she'd like that. And it's beautiful in September." Joyce looked at Harrison, who had been watching from the doorway. "That sounds perfect to me." They spent the day planning. Guest list, just 50 people. Close friends and family. Colors, soft blue and green, natural and elegant. Flowers, roses and daisies. Food, simple but delicious. A small band for dancing. "What about your dress?" Lily asked. "That's the most important part." "I don't need anything expensive," Joyce said. "Just something simple and pretty." "But this is your wedding," Lily protested. "You should have exactly what you want." Harrison came to sit beside Joyce. "She's right. This is your day. Our day. Don't hold back because of cost or practicality. What do you actually want?" Joyce thought about it. "I want to feel beautiful. I want you to see me walking toward you and know that I'm yours. I want something that feels like me, not like I'm playing dress up." "Then that's what you'll have," Harrison said firmly. Lily, you and Joyce are going dress shopping this week. My credit card. No limits. Harrison, Joyce started to protest. No limits, he repeated gently. Let me do this, please. Joyce had learned when to accept generosity, so she nodded. Okay. Thank you. That week, Joyce, Lily, and Patricia went dress shopping. The first two stores felt too formal, too stuffy. But the third store was different, intimate and warm, with dresses that ranged from traditional to modern. What about this one? Lily said, pulling out a gown in soft ivory with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing skirt. Joyce took it into the dressing room, and when she emerged, both Lily and Patricia gasped. That's it, Patricia said, her eyes wet. Oh honey, that's the one. Joyce looked at herself in the mirror. The dress was elegant but simple, romantic without being fussy. It made her feel like a bride, like the woman she'd become over this past year. You look like a princess, Lily breathed. Dad's going to cry when he sees you. Joyce bought the dress, along with simple heels and a delicate veil. As they left the shop, Lily linked her arm through Joyce's. I'm really glad you're marrying Dad, she said softly. Not just because it makes him happy, but because it makes me happy too. You feel like family already? You feel like my daughter already, Joyce said honestly. I know I'm not replacing your mom. No one could. But I hope I can be someone important to you, someone you can count on. You already are, Lily said. The weeks before the wedding flew by in a flurry of preparation. Joyce and Harrison decided they wanted Roberto to officiate, so he got ordained online and began writing their ceremony. Lily worked with a florist to design arrangements using flowers from Rebecca's garden. Harrison handled the music and the food, wanting everything to be perfect. Are you nervous? Patricia asked Joyce one evening as they addressed invitations at Joyce's apartment. Not about marrying him, Joyce said. I'm sure about that. But about deserving all this happiness? Sometimes. Joyce Martinez, Patricia said firmly. You've spent your whole adult life taking care of other people. You worked yourself nearly to death for your father. You've built a program that helps hundreds of families. You deserve every bit of happiness you get. Stop questioning it and just accept it. Joyce nodded, blinking back tears. You're right. I need to stop waiting for something to go wrong and just enjoy what's right. 2 weeks before the wedding, Harrison took Joyce to see a house. It was a beautiful craftsman-style home, not far from Harrison's current place, with a big backyard and 4 bedrooms. What do you think? He asked as they walked through. It's beautiful, Joyce said. But why are we looking at houses? Because I want us to start fresh, Harrison said. Not in my house where I lived with Rebecca. Not in your tiny apartment. A new place for our new family. What do you think? Joyce walked through the rooms, imagining their life here. A bedroom for them. A room for Lily. A room for Roberto when he wanted to stay over. An office where she could work from home. A garden where they could plant things together. I love it, she said. But we should ask Lily what she thinks. When they brought Lily to see it that weekend, she immediately ran to the room with the best light. This can be my art studio, she declared. Oh please, can we get this house? I think that's a yes, Harrison laughed. They put in an offer that day and it was accepted 2 days later. They'd move in after the honeymoon, start their married life in a space that belonged to all of them. A week before the wedding, Joyce had her last fitting for her dress. As the seamstress made final adjustments, Joyce looked at herself in the mirror and thought about how much had changed. A year ago she'd been desperate and alone, collapsing from exhaustion, certain her world was ending. Now she was standing in a wedding dress, about to marry a man she loved deeply, preparing to become a mother to a wonderful girl, watching her father thrive in remission. You're thinking deep thoughts, the seamstress observed. Just grateful, Joyce said. For second chances and kindness and love. The night before the wedding, they observed tradition and spent the night apart. Joyce stayed at her apartment with Patricia, while Harrison stayed home with Lily and Roberto. Nervous? Patricia asked as they painted their nails. Excited, Joyce corrected. Tomorrow I marry my best friend. Tomorrow I get to start forever. At Harrison's house, Lily and Roberto were giving him their own advice. Don't cry during the ceremony, Lily instructed. Well, okay, you can cry a little. But don't sob. That's embarrassing. I make no promises, Harrison laughed. Roberto put a hand on Harrison's shoulder. Take care of my daughter. Make her happy. That's all a father can ask. I will, Harrison promised. With everything I have. That night, lying in bed in her soon-to-be former apartment, Joyce thought about her mother. About how she would have loved Harrison, how she would have adored Lily. about how she would have been so proud of the woman Joyce had become. "Thanks for watching over me, Mama," Joyce whispered into the darkness. "I hope you'll be there tomorrow somehow." In his own bed, Harrison looked at the photo of Rebecca on his nightstand. "I'll always love you," he said softly. "But I'm ready to love again. Thank you for teaching me how. I think you'd like Joyce. I think you'd approve." Tomorrow they would marry. Tomorrow they would start their forever. Tomorrow would be the beginning of everything they'd been building toward. And both of them fell asleep with smiles on their faces, dreaming of the future they'd create together. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and perfect, September sunshine streaming through windows and promising a beautiful day. Joyce woke early, her heart racing with excitement rather than nerves. Patricia was already up, making coffee in Joyce's kitchen. "The big day," she said, handing Joyce a mug. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm about to get everything I've ever wanted," Joyce said honestly. At Harrison's house, Lily bounced into her father's room at 6 o'clock. "It's wedding day," she announced. "Get up, get up, get up." Harrison groaned but smiled, pulling his daughter into a hug. "A few more hours, kiddo." By 9 o'clock, Joyce was at a salon with Patricia and 3 other nurses from the hospital. Her hair was styled in soft waves, her makeup natural and glowing. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the radiant woman looking back. "You're stunning," Patricia said, adjusting Joyce's veil. "Harrison's going to lose his mind when he sees you." At the house, the garden had been transformed. White chairs arranged in neat rows, an arbor covered in flowers from Rebecca's garden, soft music playing. 50 guests would arrive at 2 o'clock, but the wedding party arrived early to prepare. Lily wore her green dress, carefully pressed, with flowers in her hair. Roberto wore his navy suit, looking healthy and proud in his role as officiant. Harrison wore a dark suit with a blue tie that matched Joyce's dress, his hands shaking slightly as he adjusted his collar. "You okay, Dad?" Lily asked, squeezing his hand. "I'm about to marry the woman I love," Harrison said. "I'm more than okay. I'm perfect." At 1:30, Joyce and Patricia arrived in a car decorated with ribbons. Joyce went to a bedroom to wait, not wanting Harrison to see her before the ceremony. Through the window she could see guests arriving, taking their seats, admiring the garden. Dr. Wright was there, along with Thomas Reed and the team from the foundation. Nurses from the hospital. Families Joyce had helped through her program. Lily's friends and teachers. People who had watched Joyce's journey and wanted to celebrate this moment with her. At exactly 2 o'clock the music changed. Harrison took his place under the arbor with Roberto, his heart pounding. Lily walked down the aisle first, carrying a small bouquet and grinning hugely. Then Joyce appeared at the end of the garden path, and Harrison forgot how to breathe. She was radiant in her ivory dress, the lace sleeves perfect, the flowing skirt catching the sunlight. Her smile was luminous, her eyes locked on his as she walked toward him. Patricia walked beside her, giving Joyce away since her own father would be performing the ceremony. When Joyce reached the arbor, Harrison took both her hands, his eyes wet with emotion. "You're so beautiful," he whispered. "So are you," Joyce whispered back. Roberto cleared his throat, smiling at both of them. "Welcome everyone. We're gathered here today to witness the marriage of Harrison and Joyce, 2 people who have found each other through loss and built something beautiful from pain." He spoke about their journey, about how they'd saved each other, about second chances and hope and the courage to love again. His words were simple but powerful, and there wasn't a dry eye in the garden. "Harrison, do you have vows?" Roberto asked. Harrison nodded, squeezing Joyce's hands. "Joyce, a year ago I watched you collapse and something in me woke up after 2 years of sleep. You reminded me what courage looks like, what love means, what it feels like to really live. You've made me believe in second chances. You've brought joy back into my life and Lily's life. You've shown me that the heart can hold both grief and happiness, that honoring the past doesn't mean we can't embrace the future." His voice broke slightly. "I promise to love you fiercely, to support your dreams, to be your partner in everything, to honor your father as family, to help you build programs that change lives, to make you laugh when you're too serious, to hold you when you're sad, to grow old beside you and love you more with every passing year. I'm yours completely and forever." Joyce was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "Harrison, when I called your number that night, I was desperate and scared. I never imagined that accepting your help would change my entire life. You've given me everything, my father's health, meaningful work, a daughter I already love, and most of all you. You've shown me that accepting kindness isn't weakness, that letting people in isn't dangerous, that love can heal even the deepest wounds. She took a breath, steadying herself. I promise to be your partner and your friend. To love Lily as my own daughter. To honor Rebecca's memory and teach Lily about the wonderful woman she was. To push you when you need pushing and support you when you need support. To build a foundation with you, literally and figuratively, that helps people find hope. To love you with everything I have every day for the rest of my life. Roberto smiled through his own tears. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Harrison, kiss your bride. Harrison didn't need to be told twice. He pulled Joyce close and kissed her as their guests erupted in applause and cheers. Lily was jumping up and down, clapping and crying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, Harrison rested his forehead against Joyce's. Mrs. Bennet? He murmured. Mr. Bennet? Joyce said back, her smile brilliant. The reception was perfect in its simplicity. They ate delicious food and danced on the patio. Lily gave a toast that made everyone cry, talking about how Joyce had brought light back into their lives. Patricia spoke about watching Joyce's journey from desperate nurse to confident advocate to radiant bride. Roberto gave the final toast, raising his glass high. To my daughter and my new son. May you have many years together, full of love and laughter and purpose. May you continue to help others the way you've helped each other. And may you always remember that accepting help when you need it is the bravest thing you can do. To Joyce and Harrison, everyone chorused. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the garden, Joyce and Harrison had their first dance as husband and wife. They swayed together to a slow song, wrapped in each other's arms, both thinking about the journey that had brought them here. Happy? Harrison asked. Completely, Joyce said. You? More than I ever thought possible, Harrison said. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for seeing me fall and deciding to help, Joyce said. Thank you for changing my life. We changed each other's lives, Harrison corrected gently. That's what love does. They danced until the stars came out, surrounded by everyone who mattered. And when the evening ended and guests began to leave, Joyce and Harrison stood together watching Lily and Roberto clean up, working side by side and laughing. That's our family, Harrison said, his arm around Joyce's waist. That's our family, Joyce agreed. They would leave tomorrow for a honeymoon in Hawaii, 2 weeks of peace and celebration. When they returned, they'd move into their new house and start their life together officially. Joyce would continue running her program, helping hundreds of families. Harrison would continue his work with the foundation, expanding its reach. Roberto would finish his book and continue his volunteer work. Lily would start high school with confidence and joy. But tonight, standing in the garden where Rebecca's flowers bloomed and new love flourished, Joyce and Harrison simply held each other and felt grateful. For second chances. For courage. For choosing to help a stranger. For accepting that help. For building something beautiful from shared loss. For opening their hearts to love again. Joyce's cancer journey for Roberto had started in desperation and darkness. It had led through exhaustion and fear and almost giving up. But then came that moment on the hospital floor and a man who decided to care. One act of kindness had changed everything. I love you, Joyce whispered. I love you too, Harrison whispered back. Forever. And in that moment, surrounded by family and flowers and hope, they both knew that sometimes the best endings are really just the beginning of something wonderful. The cancer would require ongoing monitoring. Roberto would need regular scans and checkups. Life would bring new challenges, new struggles, new moments of fear. But they would face everything together now, as a family built on love and trust and the simple belief that we're meant to help each other through this life. Joyce had started the year dying by inches, working herself to death, seeing no way out of the darkness. She ended it married to a man who cherished her, with a father in remission, doing work she loved, and with a daughter who called her mom. All because she'd made one phone call. All because she'd accepted help when she needed it most. All because Harrison had seen her fall and decided she was worth saving. And in saving her, he'd saved himself. That's the way love works sometimes. It rescues us even as we rescue others. It heals us even as we heal. It gives us hope even as we give hope. The garden grew quiet as the last guests left. Lily hugged Joyce tight. Welcome to the family, Mom, she whispered. Welcome to mine too, Joyce whispered back. Roberto embraced them both, healthy and whole and happy. My beautiful family, he said. My incredible, beautiful family. And standing there in the garden under the stars, surrounded by people who had chosen to love each other despite loss and pain, Joyce felt complete. She had fallen in the darkness. But someone had been there to catch her. And in catching each other they had both learned to fly. This was their forever. This was their beginning. This was love. If Joyce's journey from desperation to joy touched your heart, please subscribe to hear more stories of hope and second chances. Have you ever accepted help that changed your life? Have you been the person offering that help? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And it was perfect.